So children, we were talking about the leukocytes, and in the previous video we discussed about the TLC and the DLC. So as discussed earlier, granulocytes, they are of three types: the neutrophils, eosinophils and basophils. And agranulocytes are divided into monocytes and lymphocytes, right? So these are the two types of agranulocytes, WBCs, which are agranulocytes, or which do not have granules in their in their cells, right? So we talked about the TLC and DLC. This is just a view where you can see the different types of the different WBCs that are found in the blood, right? So these are the WBCs, or the leukocytes. So starting with the granulocytes, we first look at the division of the white blood cells, where we see that the white blood cells are of two types: the granulocytes and the agranulocytes. Granulocytes, they have granules inside them which are secreted by the cytoplasm, and they are divided into three types based on the stain they take up. So neutrophils, they are they are purple in color. You can see the color shown over here, and they take up both the stains. They take up the red, the acidic as well as the alkaline dyes, right? So they appear purple in color. The basophils, they take up the alkaline dye, right? So that is a base, so they are basophils. And eosinophils, they take up red dye, acidic dye, which is eosin, and so they are known as eosinophils. Monocytes, agranulocytes are divided into monocytes, which help in phagocytosis or capturing of the prey, and then lymphocytes, they also fight, they are the defense, they protect the body against different diseases by secretion of antibodies, right? So those are the lymphocytes. So basically, if we talk about the WBCs, the white blood cells, they are the soldiers of our body, because they protect our body from our enemies, and our enemies are the various microorganisms that may cause diseases, right? So WBCs are the soldiers of our body. So starting with the first one are the neutrophils. You can see the figure of neutrophil, right? So this is a granulocyte, and these are neutrophils, right? Neutrophils, as I told you just now, the neutrophils, they take up both the dyes and they appear purple in color. So they are the most common and active type of WBCs, right? So as I told you earlier, that the nucleus, this is just a single nucleus, and the nucleus is it is appearing, it is giving a particular kind of a shape, right? So the nucleus is actually single, but you can see the nucleus is divided into lobes. So you can see here, these are the lobes into which the nucleus is divided. They are of course the most common and active type of leukocyte, right? So the most prominent feature of neutrophil is that it is highly lobulated. The nucleus is highly lobulated. You can see these lobules that are present, right? These lobules, this is a single nucleus, these are the lobules that are present, and the most highly lobulated nucleus is present in neutrophils. And if you look at these lobules, they are connected with thin strands. This is also a part of the nucleus, right? Each lobule is connected with a thin strand of the nucleus, right? So they are usually 5 lobules connected by fine strands of nuclear material, right? So even here in the neutrophil, you can see there are 5 lobules that are present, and they are all connected by, these are the fine strands, right? By fine strands of the nuclear material. So that is the neutrophil, and they stimulate the production of interferons, which are antiviral substances, right. So they stimulate means they make the body produce the interferons, right. What are interferons? Interferons are antiviral substances. Antiviral, those that act against the virus. So that is antiviral, right. The next type of granulocyte are the eosinophils, right. And the eosinophil, you can see here in the diagram, these are eosinophils, right. So eosinophils, they take up the red acidic dye, right. They are around 12 to 17 μm in diameter. They are larger than the neutrophils. So the size of eosinophil is larger, they are larger than neutrophils, right. So they phagocytize antigen antibody complexes, right. So phagocytize means they capture, and they have a bilobed nucleus. So you can see the structure of the nucleus here is different. It is two-lobed, bilobed, one and two lobes, and here you can see they are connected by a thin, a fine strand, right. So bilobed nucleus. Eosinophils, the number of eosinophils is increased in allergic conditions, right, such as asthma, hay fever. So when a person suffers from all these, the eosinophils are increased in a number, right. Next are the basophils, right. You can see here, these are the basophils, right. These are the basophils, and they are the least common leukocyte, and they are less than 1% of the total leukocytes that circulate in the blood. 14 to 16 μm in diameter, they are intermediate, in between the size of neutrophils and eosinophils, right. When stained with the basic dye, the granules in basophils, they bind the dye, which changes the color to red, a phenomenon which is described as metachromasia. These are non-phagocytic, right. So they do not phagocytize, non-phagocytic, these are non-phagocytic. And if you look at the nucleus, they have 2 to 3 lobes in the nucleus. So here we can see in this figure, we can see 1, 2 and 3 lobes in the nucleus, right. So cytoplasmic granules, you can see these granules, you can very well see inside the cell, you can see all these other granules, right. So these cytoplasmic granules contain proteoglycan, that is heparin and histamine, and they are very similar to mast cells, these basophils, and are also involved in allergic reactions, right. So these are the 3 types of granulocytes, and the second category, major category of leukocyte are the agranulocytes, those structures, those WBCs that do not have granules, right. So monocyte and lymphocytes are the leukocytes with here the nucleus is slightly different. There are no granules, first thing, there are no granules present, no granules, so they are agranulocyte, right. And then the nucleus is not lobulated, right. So we write here non-lobulated nucleus, right. So the nucleus is not lobulated. So 2 types of agranulocytes. One are the lymphocytes. You can see here the lymphocytes, they are the smallest leukocytes, right. So they are the smallest leukocytes, slightly larger than RBCs. See, on the whole, WBCs are bigger in size as compared to the RBCs. So out of all the 5 WBCs, lymphocytes are the smallest, but still they are slightly larger than RBCs. They are small, non-phagocytic cells, right. So they do not phagocytize, right. Phagocytize means they they show a kind of an amoeboid movement, and with the help of their pseudopodia they engulf the foreign material that may cause some disease in our body, right. So, but these lymphocytes, they do not phagocyte. We call that process, the scientific term for the process is phagocytosis, and these lymphocytes are non-phagocytic cells, right. Now, if you look at the structure of the lymphocyte, you will see that the nucleus is round, the cell is round, and the nucleus is dense, and small amount of non-granular cytoplasm is here. So, this is the dense nucleus, right, and then you can see there are no lobules present in the nucleus, and surrounding the nucleus is the cytoplasm, which does not have granules, and a very little cytoplasm is there. You can see that the maximum space is in the cell is occupied by the nucleus. That is why we say that the nucleus is dense. The maximum space is occupied by the nucleus, and very little space of cytoplasm is there. So, just a thin layer surrounding the nucleus is the cytoplasm. They are the second most common leukocyte. First is the neutrophils, most common. Second most common are the lymphocytes. They circulate in the blood and they make up around 20 to 25% of WBC count, right. And there are actually two types of lymphocytes. They are T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, right. So, they play the central role in the immunological defense system. So, T and B lymphocytes, right. So, there are two types of lymphocytes that are present, and these two different types of lymphocytes, they have their own functions, and as per your syllabus we do not have to go into the detail of the T and B lymphocytes, right. So, in the immunological defense mechanism they play a great role, and they protect us from pathogens and are involved in the production of antibodies. So, how do they fight against the disease is by producing antibodies. So, it is these that produce antibodies, and these antibodies they kill the germ that may cause some disease, right. So, that is about the lymphocytes. And the second agranular WBC are the monocytes. So, these are the monocytes, right. Monocyte, you can see the structure of the monocyte. They are the largest corpuscle, up to 20 μm in diameter, right. So, monocytes, they are the largest, right. And if you look at the nucleus here is in monocyte is kidney shaped, right. So, they have a kidney shaped nucleus present, right. They are highly motile, right. Motile means they can move. So, they are highly motile, and they are phagocytic also. They engulf the foreign particles, right. So, they are phagocytic also. They capture the prey, right, and they remain in blood for only 3 days, right. So, they are there in the blood for 3 days, right. And in tissue spaces, monocytes, they transform, they change into macrophages, right. So, in connective tissues they are present as macrophages are big cells, right. In connective tissue they are present as histiocytes, in brain as microglia, Kupffer cells in the liver, alveolar macrophages in the lungs, macrophages of lymph nodes. So, that is how they are present, right. And we come to the last part, that is the functions of the RBCs. Let us see, neutrophils, they are active in phagocytosis and defend us against harmful viruses, bacteria and other foreign intruders that come inside our body and cause some disease. The neutrophils are also play a role in the healing of wounds and repairing worn out and damaged tissues. They prevent infections from spreading to other tissues. Lymphocytes are involved in the synthesis and distribution of antibodies in the blood. B cells are responsible for humoral or antibody immunity, right, and T cells are responsible for cellular immunity. So, to bring about immunity, right. So, that is about the WBCs, and we move on to the third type of formed elements, which are the blood platelets, also known as the thrombocytes, right? So what are these thrombocytes or blood platelets? They are actually fragments of cells, right? If you look at it here, it is it is cell fragments bound to megakaryocytes, right? So you can see how these platelets, they are pinched off or they bud off and are released into the blood. You can see the small pieces that are there. So these are actually fragments of a cell, right? Not a complete cell, they are fragments of cell. That small these thrombocytes are, right? So they are round, oval, they are biconvex, right? Biconvex, bulging like this, biconvex, right? They are round, you can see the shape is round, oval, they are biconvex, right? And they form about 1.5 to 3.5 μm in diameter, micrometer, right? So they are formed by fragmentation of huge cells called megakaryocytes. Huge cells, they are big cells. So if I draw one big cell, they are pieces of those that big cells. So these are the small pieces, and they bud off like this. They come out, and this is a blood platelet, right? So due to successive endomitosis, inside only mitotic division is taking place, megakaryocyte, it exhibits polyploidy, right? So the normal blood platelet count in a human being is between 1.5 to 3.5 lakhs per millimeter cube. So the lifespan of platelet is about 1 week, right? So the lifespan is 1 week. They live for a week, right? Blood platelets contain a variety of substances. They promote blood clotting, right? So majorly they are involved in the clotting of blood. So they do have certain substances that help in the clotting of blood, and the most important substance that is present in the blood platelet is thromboplastin, right? They also secrete factors that are involved in vascular repair. So if there is some damage in the vascular tubes, the arteries, the veins, the capillaries, so these platelets, they repair that, right? So that's about the thrombocytes. And please listen to the video properly and revise, read the lesson in the text, and just prepare for the exams. Thank you.